Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I wanted to invite all of us to spend the next hour and a half with us. And I just wanted to welcome and thank you all for joining the Spiritist Talk series that is promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for being here. I'm so very happy to host this very special talk. Why is that? Well, in the holiday spirit, we're here and we have invited very, very special guests representing the main Spiritist organizations in the United States who will talk about this main theme, embarking on a journey to wellness. And if I may, I'd like to just take a brief moment to make a couple of announcements. And number one, would like to announce the podcast-like series, Psychology and Spirituality, A Bridge to a Better Life, which is a series of discussions based on the works by Joanna DeAngelis. We have a new episode every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And just wanted to remind everyone that the Psychology and Spirituality weekly talks are based, as I said, on the work by Jonah DeAngelis, but it is there to offer a safe space to confront, compare, correlate, and expand our concepts of spiritualities from a psychological lens, bringing insights, action tips, and real world advice to help all of us lead a better life. Please take a moment to subscribe to receive notifications of new episodes when you reach the USSF YouTube channel. The second very important announcement is that the US Spiritist Federation has launched a new Spiritist app. It is called Be My Hope, and it is available now for download either on the Apple Store or Google Play. And this brand new app offers uplifting content in a collection of videos, daily messages, as well as audio materials. Please download it now. Finally, on the screen, please note there is a QR code. And if you want to help the US Spiritist Federation produce more publications, promote Spiritism to everyone, take a moment to scan the QR code on screen for a donation. Thank you for your patience, and I would like to introduce our guests today. Welcome all of you, and here with us we have Jusara Korngold. She is represented the U.S. Spiritist Federation, and she will be speaking about inner self and well-being. Andrea Marcionetto, who is speaking from Florida, representing the Florida Spiritist Federation, will speak about how does faith promote well-being. Peter Hayes comes from the tri-state, and he will be speaking about the literature and well-being. Sonia Doi, representing the Spiritist Medical Association, and she'll be speaking about the components of well-being. And Bernadette Liao, all the way from California, who will be speaking about the mental landscape and well-being. I really appreciate all of you being here, as I said before. And it is just such an honor to have all of you here, representatives of the Spiritist organizations. And we want to give this moment for the expression of gratitude for the work, continuous work, in fact, on the dissemination of Spiritism in the English language in the US and, in fact, all over the world. And I wanted to let you know that we will have about 10 minutes per guest to talk about their topic. But if you have a question that you'd like further clarification or anything else on that main topic, please take a moment to write your question in the chat window, and they will be addressed by the speakers after the presentations. And I really welcome you to do that. This main topic, as I said before, is embarking on a journey to well-being. And we'll start now with our dear friend, Bernadette. And as I said before, she will discuss mental landscape and well-being. Bernadette, please take the front stage.
Hello, everyone. It's such a joy to be here with you guys. It's about 8 o'clock in California. I'm still waking up, but it's so excited this topic. And as I'm honored to be here as I speak, I'm also learner and working on myself. I love this topic, well-being. And this chat in this next 10 minutes with me, let's think about the well-being of the mind, some examples, and what we can do to be better, to have a better life, our thinking in this very short minute. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. So, well-being. We woke up in the morning and we're like, oh, well, today's going to be an awesome day. Hope you do that, right? And stop checking internet and all the things that's going on and bombarding us with negative things. But then you go with your life and suddenly we have things that are unexpected, events, or even things that have been going on in our life with red flags, and we decide not to pay attention, and somehow it affects our mind, our body, and our soul. Of course, we are human beings, right? Those things happen to us. Then what? What are we gonna do about it? And the beauty of Spiritism is always telling us to work on ourselves. So we do know that things happen. We do know that we get upset. We do know that we get negative sometimes, but then what? And here is how Joana de Angelis help us with the book Full Life, one of my favorite books, right? I am a visual learner. When I was studying to be a teacher, I failed several times taking the test of math. I struggle understanding until a teacher helped me, and she helped me to see every word as a drawing. And then I was able to succeed. So when I'm studying, when I'm reading, I am drawing. I'm visually seeing, I'm making charts. And then when I read, come on, pray and be vigilant. Pay attention to your mind. I get it, but I don't see it. I really don't. That's my way of learning. But that Joana de Angelis helped me when she said, imagine your mind as a landscape. So if you got a paper, immediately in my mind was a paper. So I imagine here, my head is the line. I don't know if you can see, but it's okay. You imagine a line. So your mind is a landscape. And what do you do all day? You are building houses, buildings, trees. You're not even aware. Oh my gosh, I need to go to work and deal with this. Boom, here's the building. Start growing. Oh, here's the tree. And we are doing this every single day. And it's important to be aware. We have a huge city here, right? And we have some brow in our head too that we need to clear the negativity. The question is, from the moment we wake up, what kind of buildings, what kind of houses? Right now this morning, for me at least, or wherever the time you are watching it, how is your mental landscape? because this affects your well-being. This affects your day. Now, this is going to happen no matter what. And it's like, oh my God, I have to be vigilant all the time. Come on, do we do this 24 hours? We don't. We're human beings, as I said. But when that happens, catch it. And immediately start seeing, oh my gosh, I'm building this. This house right now in my head is negative. Oh, I need to bring some light. And what are you going to do about it? Because we want to be happy. We want to be joyful. But it's not that easy all the time. But we can start developing this awareness of what's going on. So are we planting seeds? What kind of seeds in your mental landscape that is affect your well-being? We have the power of dictate the weather in your mental landscape. Are you having storm? Is it a beautiful day with the sunshine? Oh, maybe there is going on. Let's become more aware of what's going on in our mind as we see our mental landscape every day. By the time we wake up, we are scanning the world. And what is going on? We are collecting all this data. It's automatically. Right now, I walk here, I see what's going on, I read a book, my eyes are reading, and then data. This big computer in your mind, and then you start building this system. And if we don't stop just to think and take care of our mind, the things that we see, the things that we imagine, be careful what we watch, be careful the words that we say, be careful where we go, because it affects our mental landscape. So, my suggestion for you as a homework, as a teacher, I always have to give homework, can't help, sorry. Get a paper. Like I said, oh, it fell here. Divide this paper into 4 quadrants, right? And you put here morning. So probably you're seeing morning. As soon as you wake up, then here is early morning, afternoon, evening, or when you come back to home. And here's my suggestion. I've done it, and it's really interesting. As soon as you wake up, draw your mental landscape. How is your mind right now? As you start work, start drawing your mental landscape. Ooh, it starts to rain. Oh no, what's going on? Then in the afternoon, and by the time you come home, but not from a judgmental point of view. It's just so visually you can see what's going on, what happened on the day. And then you write, what triggered? Why suddenly it was calm? It was in the ocean, sunshine, eating a delicious cake or whatever it is, drink my favorite drink, just whatever gives you joy and pleasure. And suddenly here comes a storm. Was it me? Was it something from the outside? A person? Whatever it was. And then the end of the day, just draw and watch your mental landscape. Think about what caused and start working. If you realize that it's in the morning that things are worse, if you have children, come on, if you have little children, gotta go to work, I have to do this, I gotta, whatever it is. It's affecting your mental landscape and everybody. And once your well-being is affected, it affects your mental, your health, your body, which I'm sure some of our wonderful speakers are going to talk more about it. and affect people around us. And it's not only about us. We are also responsible that our actions can affect the people that we love. And deep, deep inside, we love them. We don't want it, that they'll be angry and upset or make them have a horrible day. I have parents that drop the kids at school just already yelling. Come on, go, we are late. I gotta tell your brother. And I go, honey, come here. Okay, I love you. Breathe. Let's build this beautiful day. So that's my suggestion for the mental landscape. And you can find more about this in the book Full Life from Joanna de Angelis. The topic is mental landscape. And if you have time, do your homework. I hope that this helped you a little bit more to reflect on the way we think and visually see our thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernadette, for your beautiful words and the invitation to do our own homework and draw our mental landscape. I also second your plug regarding the book A Full Life by Joanna de Angelis, which is available in English as well as in Portuguese. Thank you so much. I'd like for us to invite Peter Hayes to speak about literature of well-being.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you. When we think of the word literature, what comes to mind? Hopefully something positive and not stodgy stuff that we were forced to read when we were in school. But literature has a very significant meaning that we can put into our daily lives. Webster's dictionary defines the word literature like this, quote, the production of written works having excellence of form or expression and dealing with ideas of permanent interest. If we think about Spiritism and its relationship to literature and well-being, then dealing with ideas of permanent interest is about making good choices by pursuing content with truthful values. When reading Spiritist literature, we should start with the good stuff. Spiritism encourages careful reflection and exploration. That's its nature. It encourages us to pursue literacy, to question and appreciate the joys of having insights and revelations about the world around us and about ourselves. And of course, putting what we learn into practice within our daily lives is most important and the hardest. But to understand Spiritism well, we should start with the essential books that provide a good foundation. Fortunately for English speakers, we have many options nowadays. That wasn't always the case since Spiritism began with the Spiritist codification in Europe and later flourished within Brazil, where more literature was added to deepen our understanding. Around 25 years ago, there were only about 5 books on Spiritism available in English, and not even the entire codification that was overseen by Allan Kardec. Today, there are nearly 200 publications, and more are forthcoming. Who produces these books? Web Publisher, Liao Publisher, the United States Spiritist Federation all provide quality books on Spiritism in English. Here are some examples of books that we should all be looking at. The Spiritist Codification, put together by Allan Kardec, is the foundation, the Bible, if you will, all 5 books. Along with that would be the publications of the Spiritist magazine during Kardec's lifetime. The years 1858 to 1863 are currently available in English. There's also books by Leon Denis, a late 19th century, early 20th century interpreter of Spiritism. There are the books by the medium Chico Xavier from Brazil, one of the greatest mediums of all time. In particular, there are works by the spirit Emmanuel. Emmanuel in English has 2 general categories: the novels that outline examples of his past incarnations, which give you a good idea of some of his spiritual progress, and also a series of books from Emmanuel that are short chapters that are reflections on the New Testament primarily, and give you a lot of insights and are very inspirational that way. There's also from Chico Xavier the Andre Louise series. Of the 13 books available in English, they all tend to give glimpses of life in the spirit world. So if you take or think about the more abstract content of the Spiritist codification, the Andre Louise books give concrete examples of how some of this gets played out on the other side. There's also works from the medium Givaldo Franco. In particular, the works of Joanna de Angelis, which offers a lot of very useful and inspirational advice on how to deal with life today. Among those books in English are a whole series of psychology involving some of my colleagues here on this program. There is a program that you can watch on YouTube as well. There's the works of Manuel Filomeno de Miranda. His works available in English focus mainly on the planetary transition. There's also the Spirit, the Spirit Amelia Rodriguez. Two of her works are available that focus on the life and wisdom of Jesus. There's also books psychographed by the medium Yvonne A. Pereira. If you're interested in the subject of suicide, her book Memories of a Suicide is essential reading. Book's a little intense in the beginning, but it makes some very, very profound and important points about the consequences of suicide, and ultimately how, when we get through any experience like that, there's promise for the future. There are many other books, too, that deserve our attention, but we are limited by time. All these works have been produced by dedicated souls who did not earn a dime for their loving efforts and hard work. Remember, Spiritism is a nonprofit pursuit, and its dissemination should be egoless. So be careful about anyone with an agenda that's a little bit more about self-gain. Why does literature and literacy matter for our well-being? Literature and well-being are easier to achieve within study groups at a Spiritist center that is well run. Yes, it can be on Zoom, but in person is even better. Why all this emphasis on study? Because Spiritism describes itself as a reasoned faith, so it stresses knowledge and being informed. Besides the important creed, without Spiritism there is no salvation, another creed in Spiritism is this: question everything. And that is easier and more engaging when we interact with others via study groups that involves reading and reflecting on books. Question everything should not be construed as being closed-minded. There is a difference. Healthy skepticism can help us to avoid blind faith, which is a big no-no in Spiritism. Rather, we can get into the habit of asking lots and lots and lots and lots of questions, no matter how much knowledge or experience we have with Spiritism. Questioning encourages more thinking and helps to give it direction. When we question everything, Spiritism encourages us to use reason and logic. This arduous process helps us to develop and deepen our faith through our own efforts. We avoid believing in something just because someone told us it was true. While Spiritism began with the phenomena, which can be fun, Allan Kardec quickly realized that the heart of Spiritism was in the content of the philosophical, religious, and scientific answers he received that provided glimpses into the non-physical world and the subtle, complex relationship it has with the physical world. Spiritism is about making an inner transformation, which requires focus and a lifelong effort. Spiritism, therefore, is not a quick fix via the self-help route. That means that the 5 books of the Spiritist codification, plus the others I mentioned, are not light reading. Sorry, but to understand inner transformation and understanding require a lot of effort. Spiritism is better understood through consistent and repeated study. So yes, my friends, that means rereading books. The best books on Spiritism will speak to us again and again in different ways when we revisit them. If we read a question from the Spirits book a few years ago and reread it now, it might feel like we never read it before. Well, that's because we are in a different place today. I think that's what makes rereading and reflecting lots of fun. And the act of reading is good for our well-being. For our mental health, reading makes us more productive. Reading increases self-esteem and helps us develop an ability to empathize with others. Reading can help to reduce depression, plus decrease stress and lower blood pressure. It can have similar benefits as yoga, meditation, etc. There is some evidence that reading can help with age-related cognitive issues. Elderly adults who read regularly have a, quote, 20% reduction in mortality compared to those who do not read. That's from an article on Psychology Today. Also, reading helps create more equality within a country because we are better informed, essential to any democracy. Finally, if we want to get a good night's sleep, it is important to prepare. Reading a physical book, not a computer or a cell phone, can help us get the rest that is essential to good health. There is lots of evidence that many of us suffer from a lack of sleep. A lack of sleep weakens our immune system. A lack of sleep can be related to Alzheimer's disease. It can disrupt our blood sugar levels and possibly block our coronary arteries. A lack of sleep increases the likelihood of emotional problems and makes us dangerous as drivers. So please read something spiritual and emotionally healthy before you sleep. I'm going to wrap up. My colleagues here will certainly have much to say about well-being, but I'll end with this comment about well-being from Psychology Today. Quote, well-being is the experience of health, happiness, and prosperity. It includes having good mental health, high life satisfaction, a sense of meaning or purpose, and an ability to manage stress. End quote. Literature and well-being are connected to having a purpose, which is about how we spend our time. As we engage in emotionally rewarding and healthy activities, are we pursuing stuff that does not nourish the spirit? Well, look, from time to time, there's nothing wrong with doing things that are lighter and more mindless, but time should not be taken for granted. Promoting healthier habits with our time, such as making literature a regular part of our lives, promotes inner well-being. Thank you.
Apologies. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. What a great summary of that Spiritist foundational literature to me, to everyone here. Wonderful. And thank you also for your explanation about the Spiritist bias toward rational faith, right? And especially appreciate you talking about your contribution toward understanding how reading in general and Spiritist literature in particular can help our health and well-being. Thank you so much, Peter. But now I would love to invite Sonia Doi to speak to us about the components of well-being. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's a joy to be, and I'm honored to be part of this panel with my great colleagues here, great speakers. And today I'm going to be talking about the components of well-being. So, if I ask you what well-being is for you, and if I could capture all of your answers, I would probably be able to generate this huge word cloud with different answers, different types of elements. And this is all well and good because there is no right or wrong answer to how you define well-being. And we're going to talk about this for a while now. Well-being could be considered as a synonym for positive mental health because the World Health Organization has defined mental health or positive good mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contribution to his or her community. Right there, we can identify several components of well-being, including awareness, including resilience to stand with stresses of life, altruism, and so forth, so on. But in a more general concept, as Peter Hayes mentioned, this is in Psychology Today, well-being is considered in general as the opposite of ill-being. And well-being means literally feeling well. And as contrary to ill-being is the experience of good health, happiness, and prosperity. But it seems very simple, but it's not that simple. It's actually very complex because happiness can mean a lot of things for each one of us. Well-being, because well-being is important to everyone, it has been included as a key interest in social sciences. And social sciences encompasses various disciplines, as you can see in the list below. Each discipline looks at well-being with a different set of elements. They try to determine well-being according to their perspective using different elements in surveys. So in these surveys, you present a list of elements and ask people of a certain community to mark what is important for them. But because there are several different interests, several disciplines that look at well-being, researchers have tried to reach a consensus on how to measure well-being in a diverse population. Which are the components that are more important to include in a survey to be researched? And all this, the goal of these surveys, the goal of this research on well-being is actually to improve well-being. And this is important for policymakers to find ways to improve well-being in a certain community. So well-being is not just being healthy or having emotional balance. There are a lot of different components depending on the way we look at it. So there's no doubt that well-being is a multi-dimensional concept defined differently by each of one of these disciplines, but it's also looked differently depending on the group that we survey. And in some surveys, for example, of lay people, when you ask them what is important for them to consider well-being, most lay people respond that it is having good mental health, feeling valued, work-life balance, and the notion of inner harmony. But academic models consider the major components of well-being, meaning of life, and relationships. But there are also differences across lifespan. as we grow older, with our experiences, we change. We change the way we see things. We change how things in life mean to us. So in surveys, when they ask adolescents, they said that well-being for them was happiness, kindness, having fun, and feeling safety. While when they asked elderly people, the answer was the most important was meaning and purpose in life. But there are also differences across cultures. In survey that was done comparing Chinese students and European students, the Chinese students said that for them, well-being was meant optimism and contentment, while the European students said that most important for them was mental health. So we see that there is a diverse way to say what is the meaning of well-being, depending on who you are, where you are, different types in life, different awareness, different notions. But with all this variety of definitions of well-being, one of the most widely cited definitions in research is that well-being means how people feel and function, both on a personal and a social level, and how they evaluate their lives as a whole. This concept includes multiple elements within and across the broad categories of emotion, behavior, cognition, and relationships. How we feel, how we behave in different situations in life, how we relate to ourselves, to others, how is our awareness of life, including life, our material life, our daily lives, or life, spiritual life. So there's all this encompasses a mental, a state of mind, as Bernadette said, is a state of mind that actually defines well-being for one or another person in different ways, in different times of the day, as Bernadette said. So one of the interesting examples of this I found in this documentary movie that was shown in 2011, when they decided to run across different settings and ask people what is well-being for them, what is happiness for them. And one of the points, one of the moments that really was striking for me was when they asked this head of a family in Calcutta, are you happy? He was working and living in a condition that for many is considered miserable condition. But he said, yes, I feel happy. I have a good, loving family. I have everything I need. I am happy. And that was really striking. So, as Bernadette said, it's a state of mind. But it's very important that all this boils down, independent of how many components we can define for well-being, all this boils down to who we are and what is important for in life for us. And as presented by Peter Hayes, there's a vast spiritist literature that we can use to enlighten ourselves, to make our choices of what wellness means for us. We can find a very simple way to feel happy, to feel well, but it's really important that we use these resources, and we are going to be much better. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia. It is truly eye-opening, right? To understand how diverse the definition of well-being is. And here goes another invitation for all of us to take stock of what and how we define our well-being, our health, and even perhaps our happiness. Thank you, Sonia. But with that, I'd like to invite Andrea Marshall Neto, who will be speaking about how faith promotes well-being. Thanks, Andrea.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending where you may find yourself today as you're listening to this presentation. I like to say hello also to everybody who may be following along the International Spiritist Council channel, TVCEI, TVCEI, and others as well. And a very big thanks to the United States Spiritist Federation for the trust on allowing me to be part of this beautiful panel of speakers. With the topic that we have, I'd say Sonia, Peter, and Bernadette made my presentation very easy, because when we're talking about faith, we are able to resort to books such as the one that I placed on the chat right now, in which I utilized it for the full 10 minutes that I'm going to be using here, which is the Genesis, Miracles, and Predictions According to Spiritism, and also the Gospel According to Spiritism. I like to ensure that perhaps you have this information to deep further into understanding this aspect of faith. The Gospel According to Spiritism, as you open the pages, the main aspect, the title, there is a very profound, impactful phrase that says, unshakable faith is only the kind that can stand face to face with reason in all human aspects. This is a very deep sentence, and we are going to understand this by the time I'm done, I hope. I utilized this website, which is called the National Center for Biotechnology Information. I was inspired by Dr. Sonia Doi on researching this and ensuring that science is presented in such a way that finally we are able to catch up with the information that came to light with the release of the book, the Spirit's book, in 1857. The Center for Biotechnology Information states, religiousness and spirituality are consistently linked with positive indicators of well-being, but the mechanisms behind these associations remain largely unknown. Not true, however, because the mechanisms behind these associations of the positive indicators of well-being that faith brings about is actually presented in the book that we mentioned, Genesis, Miracles, and Predictions According to Spiritism. There is a chapter entitled The Character of the Spiritist Revelation, which is chapter 1, in which there is a question posed. What is the authenticity of these revelations based upon? And so we are presented with the following. A body of knowledge that is not imposed upon blind faith, but rather that is deduced through human endeavor from the observation of the phenomena that the spirits place right before our eyes, and also from the teachings that they give. Teachings that people can study, comment, compare, and from which they themselves draw the conclusions and applications. This is why the phrase unshakable faith is only the kind that can stand face to face with reasons in all human epochs starts making sense to us. One body of knowledge in which we ourselves are able to conclude and apply the teachings in a way that we draw a rational faith. And to illustrate what I'm talking about, I resorted to the chapter in which Allan Kardec presents the healings. For example, one that is very well known is the loss of blood. A woman who had been afflicted for years by the loss of blood, actually 12 years. And she suffered so much in the hands of physicians who had no way of making an answer and trying to bring some kind of conclusion on why she was having that loss of blood for such a long time. This is actually found in the Gospel of Mark, so please resort to it, chapter 5, to understand it. Jesus is walking amongst the people. Let's envision this in our mind. He is walking and people are kind of, going around him, and it's very tight because it's a crowd of people. The disciples are following along with him, but Jesus stops and he says, "Who touched my garments?" Envision this. The human with the loss of blood is there, and she thinks for herself, if I can only touch his garments, I would be healed. And she touches his garment, his tunic, not his leg, not his feet, nothing, just the tunic. And her faith so profound that when she does that, something amazing happens between her and between the master. Jesus stops and says, "Who touched me?" Can you imagine this? Peter's like, "Everybody's touching you. What do you mean, who touched you?" And then he says, "No, I felt a power that came out of me." And so she raises herself. And this is very symbolic because when Jesus was healing people, it wasn't only on a physical aspect. For her to have had the guts to get up and says, "I am the one who touched you," there was a reason why he asked that. He knew, but he wanted to empower her, to make her feel like she was wholesome, divine, that there was something powerful within her. And so the gospel, according to Spiritism, when it talks about faith, explains this mechanisms. But let's go to the scientific aspect of it found in the Genesis. It states, given as a therapeutic matter, the fluid must reach the organic disorder in order to repair it. It can be directed towards the illness by the healer's will. Jesus was in constant healing will, desire of being of assistance to everyone who were suffering, whichever case it might be. And it can also be attracted by the ardent desire, the trust, in other words, the faith of the person who is ill. With respect to this fluidic current, this is what they utilize. When she touches his garment, there is an exchange of fluidic current. You may call it energy. You may call it what you desire, which may make sense to you. But in Genesis, it says the fluidic current, the former act likes a force pump. So Jesus acts as that force pump, whereas the woman who had a loss of blood acts like a suction pump. So it's this exchange that happens. And Allan Kardec states, sometimes it is necessary for both actions to occur simultaneously, while at other times, just one is enough. But in this sense, in this moment, they bring to us this ability that we have to be a attracting pump, a suction pump in a good way. And so the gospel, according to Spiritism, is going to say, the power of faith receives a direct and special application in magnetic action, in the healing of hands when we are at the Spiritist Center. If we sit there and we are not connected, we don't have that ardent desire to feel the healing, it's as if we are under a rainstorm and we are not only using a shower cap, we are also using an umbrella. So the healing energies does not apply, does not penetrate the molecules, the cells of our perispiritual body to have an impact on the physical one. Whereas if I am sitting there in a position where I am in that ardent desire to be a suction pump, I will be able to receive it according to the law of cause and effect, according to the merit that I may have already received. So through faith, we act upon the fluid, that universal agent that is explained in a lot of details in Genesis, Miracles and Predictions, according to Spiritism. So it modifies the qualities and it gives it an impulse that is irresistible, so to speak. And it continues. Those who combine a normally large fluidic power with an ardent faith can solely, by their will directed toward the good, perform the remarkable phenomena of healing. And if I am also in the opposite end, I may be able to do the very same. It is a natural law. This is why Jesus brought us a lesson that he says, when the disciples asked, why is it that we couldn't heal? He says, you could not heal it because you did not have faith. So we see that faith is actually applied on both ends of the spectrum. Jesus was writing saying, your faith has saved you. He empowers the human being because he was very aware, he was very knowledgeable of the fact that we were all destined to plenitude, to the healing. Sometimes not of the physical body, but of our soul, which case in the book, Light of the World, not yet translated by the spirit author, Amelia Rodriguez, she narrates a case in which a woman who was paralytic went to see Jesus and came back not healed. And people are like, well, what happened? And she states, the healing that he provided me actually made my faith a lot stronger. The healing that occurred was of my soul. So just to finalize this, we see a case also in which he healed 10 lepers and only one came back to thank him. And Jesus asked, where are the other 9? No one came back to give glory to God except that one person. And so he says to the one who was a Samaritan. Samaritans at that time were more or less like Protestants with respect to Catholics. There was a difference, but were despised by the Jews. And that one Samaritan who was despised came back to give thanks. And Jesus says, your faith has saved you. And that is found in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 17. On that note, I'm going to give back the word to our hostess with the mostest, Marcia. And thank you guys for the attention and the opportunity.
Thank you, Andrea. Wow, what inspiring words to all of us about faith, right? As Andrea offered us this perspective that the Spiritist body of work brings this rational faith as a bridge to our well-being through knowledge, through opportunities as well for self-healing. Thank you so much, Andrea. But last but not least, by all means, I would like to invite Jussara Corngo to speak about inner self and well-being.
Thank you, Marcia. I feel so inspired. Thank you so much for everyone. And if I had to say what well-being means to me, it means to be able to partake of moments such as this one, to be able to learn, to be among friends, brothers and sisters of ideal for decades, and to be able to answer the call to be part of a group such as this. When Peter mentioned the fact that we can definitely be following all the studies and everything virtually, he also said about the importance of us gathering together. And we have to remember that the charcoal, when they is moved away from the fire, it goes out. So this is why we need to be together, not to let our fire expire and goes out, and always be inspired by each other. And when we talk about inner self and well-being, of course, I had to bring help. So I got help from Joana de Angelis, which was gifted to me at the Congress of Joana de Angelis that we had in Uberaba, and she's adorable. And I resorted to the book Life Challenges and Solutions. And it's so amazing when she talks about the spiritual awakening, the self-awakening, how, we work on our inner self. For starters, of course, it is a matter of choice. We all can look for different paths. We all can look for different solutions, but there are those that will lead us to the right track. And when we are talking about, this self-discovery, knowing and understanding about ourselves and the importance we have in terms of, or this incarnation means to us in terms of, spiritual growth, it is impossible not to talk about the benefactor Joana de Angelis. And this book also is a book that is was psychographed by the medium Divaldo Pereira Franco and published by Leal Publisher. And she starts by saying something so inspiring, and because she starts by mentioning a quote from Leon Denis that was that lived at the same time as Allan Kardec, and when he talks about our process in terms of self-awakening, in terms of this inner self and all the work that we have to go in terms of awakening the self. And he talks that we sleep in the mineral, we dream in the plant, we feel in the animal, and we think in the human being. And that's it. But then Joana de Angelis comes and she goes further and she says, but it continues. So we cannot just think that this is it. This is where we have reached a plateau or something. No, she says that we continue with immense intuitive capacity. The more we reach the state of pure spirits, and we are always going to be acquiring new experiences, because we are destined to attune with cosmic consciousness. So now I know that this is my destiny. What am I going to do about that? It's no wonder why she says that it's, although this whole process is painful, because it's almost like, going through the birth, of an inner child, the inner self. So we go through all this pain. But unfortunately, as she mentioned in this chapter, many people look for assistance elsewhere. So in her words, we delegate. We think that people are going to be doing the changes for us. We transfer our responsibility in terms of what we have to have for self-commitment and doing the work. So in any case, there are always being help for us. There are always being people that could be guiding us, orienting us in this process, and the spirit Joana de Angelis is doing that for us. And there is one thing that she mentions in this chapter and goes very much along with what our dear Andrea was talking about. She gives us an advice in order for us to go through this process of awakening the inner self, and as a consequence, reach this state of well-being, of permanent well-being. She says that we need to reread the Gospel of Jesus. Of course, she's coming from the idea that we all have read it already. So she says we have to reread it, especially if we take into consideration all the advances that we have been having in terms of psychology and other approaches to the psyche. So this is, is using science, using what we currently have at our disposal in the field of science, in the field of spirituality, in the field of learning and understanding that we are immortal spirits. And then she talks about the many times that Jesus mentioned the need for us to awaken, and how sleeping and the sleeping of the soul would be in the way of us reaching this well-being. So we have the Spirit Emmanuel as well in the book Living Spring, published by the Fabi publisher as well. Chapter 66, the lesson is Wake Up and Rise, when he uses start with a quote from Apostle Paul, where he says, wake up, and you who sleep, rise from among the dead, and Christ will shine on you. And Emmanuel starts by saying, thousands of brothers and sisters have been asleep with no sign of ever waking up, while the glorious time of their life on earth passes useless by. So Joana de Angelis uses some examples of the gospel by talking about Lazarus, for instance. She says that the only reason why Lazarus was able to awaken, to recover from a physical condition that he had at the time of catalepsy, because he was awakened to the reality of the Spirit. So when Jesus calls him to return, his soul was ready and could hear the voice of the Master. On the other hand, she talks about the example of Peter. Peter was sure that he was completely awakened. And when Jesus tells him that before the rooster would crow 3 times, he would deny Jesus, he would defect. He couldn't understand, but Jesus knew that he was not yet awakened to the high calling of acting in line with his benefactor. So the true awakening for him happened exactly at this time. So this is why, in terms of everything that we were talking about here, focusing on mental health, focusing of what kind of literature we are going to bring to our lives, focusing on understanding the root of faith and not thinking that this is just going to be bestowed to us because, irrational faith is not going to last. It's very much like the parable that Jesus talked about, the parable of the sower. If the terrain is not good, the seeds are not going to be showing or not showing when the opportunity comes and comes to us, comes to each one of us, because the substance is not there. So in this case, I think, when we think about all the possibilities that we already have and understanding the importance of us awaken to our own reality, knowing the flaws that we have, knowing the fragility that we still have, and how hard it is still for us to reach the pinnacle of our ideals. But it's not impossible, and it has to happen with baby steps. So when talking about our inner self and well-being, for starters, let's use all these possibilities, and especially the advice that this Spirit has brought to us. Let us start rereading the gospel of Jesus, but now in the 21st century with a broader understanding, with a broader understanding of life and things and all the cosmos, we can finally starting seeing what Jesus really was talking to us, was telling us with his examples, with his teachings. So it is time for us not to be afraid to look in the mirror and see that we are not there yet, but we have a plan. And with this plan, we are going to be succeeding, because above all things, and this is something that she mentions in the chapter, we are never alone. And help from God will always come to us if we only know to look in the right places. So when looking for well-being, let's not be content with things that can, sparks that can expire so easily. Let's look for the light that will remain in our lives, in our surroundings, and it's going to ignite our own light so that we can go in the direction of this cosmic consciousness and commune with God.
Thank you. Thank you, Jusara. Like you, I am deeply touched and quite emotional by this moment that put us together to celebrate the opportunity to learn from Spiritism and, most importantly, achieve our well-being. For the audience, I hope you have sent your questions during the presentation, because we do have some time to answer them. So let's see if we have a question or two. Hi, Mark. Mark Carlos sent us the following questions. Wouldn't a beginner benefit from introduction to Spiritism in order to provide basic information that all other Spiritist literature allows for deeper understanding? I think this can go by to anyone, but Peter, can you answer that?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. I think that an intro type book would be an excellent way to start. I like, and I didn't mention this before, but I like the book originally called Initiation into Spiritism by Teresina Oliveira, available through the U.S. Spiritist Federation. I believe it's going to be called Introduction to Spiritism in future editions, but that one provides some nice, concise overviews of Spiritism. I also like Kardec's book, Spiritism in its Simplest Explanation, from Feb Publisher. Personally, I like to go to the second half of that book, which focuses on some really wonderful brief summaries that kind of boil down what Spiritism is about. You can also read What is Spiritism from Allan Kardec, also from Feb Publisher. A little longer book, but absolutely essential.
Peter, love it. Thank you. Can you do me a favor and put in the chat window all the books that you said I think would be good for everyone who's here?
Okay.
So let's see if we have another question. Hey, Sarah dos Santos asked the following. How can we get rid of bad habits that impact our well-being? Who can answer that? I'm looking and thinking that Sonia Doi, Dr. Sonia Doi, may give that answer to you, Sarah.
Well, first of all, I like to congratulate you, Sarah. Such a young mind, thinking about how to get rid of bad habits. Sarah, what I would say is, first of all, the first step is awareness, is that you are aware of what are the bad habits that are impacting the well-being. This is the first step, and that's very important. Then it doesn't go away immediately. It needs to the experience of every day trying to work on changing that bad habit to a good habit. So it's an everyday exercise. and it may take a long time, but it's worthwhile. It's important also that you find inspiration from literature, from all the books, for example, that Peter Hayes beautifully showed in his presentation. All those books, especially Joana de Angelis, but so many other books, can give you inspiration on how to change that bad habit. And also finding support from the spiritist groups. And what I would also maybe inspire you to do is to build a group within your youth group in the Spiritist Center as a supporting group to help one another on how to change bad habits and improve well-being. That's very important. Thank you so much, Sarah, and congratulations on your inspired question.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sonia. And I would just let you know that many centers throughout the world are studying Joana de Angelis, right? And one of the favorite ones right now for me is the Integral Human Being. And it's about being kind and accept all of who you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Those are my words, not Joanna's. So let us look at our within and accept our shadow, but bring it up so that we can expand our consciousness. So love it. Love, as you said, Sonia, the such a young person aware of all the things that can come to us. So thank you, Sarah. Let's see if we have another question. There are some people to whom faith comes naturally, but others struggle to achieve it. Why do you think this happened, Andrea?
This is a very common question whenever we have a presentation or study group in which this question is brought up, and there is a very good reason for that. I struggled with that a lot. Perhaps I may even find others who have the same issues, but I would like to talk about my mother-in-law. She's pretty amazing. She's Catholic, and her faith is something quite profound. Whenever I have an issue, I do pray, but I ask her to do the same because I believe that her Wi-Fi is stronger than mine. She has 5 bars, I have 1 and 2. So this happens to a lot of people. But this is what the gospel, according to Spiritism on chapter 19, faith moves mountain states. It says that faith cannot be prescribed. Faith cannot be imposed. It is not the faith that should seek out people, but rather people should seek out faith. And the gospel, according to Spiritism, states that we seek it with sincere feelings, we will find it. But then there is this thing in which it talks about how faith comes very natural to some people, whereas others have a difficult time reaching it. And I'm going to resort to it because their words is better than mine. It says, for some individuals, faith almost seems to be innate. A spark is enough to develop it. Whereas others, the spiritual truths are difficult to absorb. So when there is a difficulty absorbing it, they are talking about this ability to process and understand the mechanism behind it, which comes with progress. As we progress, faith becomes deeper and deeper, this innate feeling within. Some people have already developed it from other existences, where others are still catching up. And that is okay also. It says some have already understood and believed it. Upon being reborn, they bring with them that intuition. They have accomplished their education. Some people, like me, have to learn everything. We are not yet able to accomplish this education in one life, but we do not give up. And if we don't do it in this life, we are going to continue that education, not only in the errant state, meaning the time in which we find ourselves between reincarnation, but also in a future one. They state that faith requires a foundation, and a foundation is the perfect understanding of that which is to be believed, and also not only able to see it, but also above everything, able to understand it, which is why Spiritism, like our friend Peter stated, talks so much about the aspect of blind faith and rational one. The rational one is the appropriate faith for this century, is what the Gospel according to Spiritism states. And it is precisely the dogma of blind faith that produces this great number of people who are disbelievers, because it wishes to impose itself. Whereas Spiritism proposes another aspect of it, one in which we are able to understand it, see it, feeling, and develop as we go along. So if you are those like me that have a hard time understanding it, when really we are stuck between a rock and a hard place, resort to chapter 19 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, read it, try to reflect upon it, seek it as they state, and we will find it.
Awesome. Thank you. That's really great. Let's see if we have another question here. Hi, Kirsten. Kirsten's here saying, living in the present day with so many advances, is there a faster way to fix ourselves or expedite the process? Jusada, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Kirsten. Thank you so much for your question. I think that is actually what we always want, right? We are always looking to find a shortcut. And when we were talking about faith, and Andrea just mentioned again to us, there is no shortcut. You may want it, you may know this is the right thing, the right path to go, but unless you go through it, there is no way we are going to achieve things. Or when I was talking about the things like, the self-awareness, all this process of bettering oneself, we cannot delegate that. It's our own responsibility. But having said that, we today have so much help in terms of instruments that are at our disposal for us to advance, to expedite our process. So as you said, which is, look for the good literature, be with people that is going to inspire you, be there for people who are in need, and be grateful as well when people are there for you in difficult times. It's again, like I said when I was talking, a matter of choosing our own path. So making choices. And I think today, more than any time before, we have this possibility. We have so many houses of assistance, of spiritual assistance, even in this country. We have so many groups and spiritist centers. And today, all this literature that we already have available into English, it will take a lifetime for us to go through all of them. So let's not say, oh, it's not enough. Only that, you have only about 200. Oh my God, 200 can take your whole time, your whole lifetime now to go through them. And I guarantee you those 200 are the top of the line, right? And I think we also have the lives. We also have, all the study groups, virtual study groups that we have. So today we have a lot. And if we look in the right place, we will see how much goodness has been happening in the world. Because I'm in the field of not-for-profit, it's been a while. So this that I heard this, but you can only imagine that it amount has grown so much. There are over 2 million organizations dedicated to goodness in the world. And so imagine 2 million 2 million organizations, and the speaker was saying that if we were to be reading the names of each one of them, passing on the screen, we would need to be there 24/7 during 30 days. So there is a lot of goodness happening in the world. We just have to focus on that. And in this sense, I think that when we surround ourselves with goodness, with good thoughts, like for instance, now everyone is talking about the wars. So instead of being one more that is living with fear because we do not have the faith that we should, let us be the ones that will say, Jesus is in the command of planet Earth. And so I have faith, and I will be surrounding myself with everything that can help me grow, because when I grow, I help others grow as well.
That is awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Jusara. I think we're about to the end of our time together. And let me just give another minute. If not, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for giving the details in the chat. I think it's going to happen. And wanted to just really take a moment to just say thank you for all of those who spend this time with us today, right? And for everyone who gave your reflections provided either by your feedback, your questions, as well as those answers. I wanted to also thank everyone that continue to come to our weekly Spiritist Talk series. And next week, December 16th, at 11 a.m. Eastern, please come back and don't miss the topic that Joyce Magalhães will be discussing. Does happiness exist? I will be here. This is really intriguing topic. If you have not done so yet, please take a moment to subscribe to the U.S. Spiritist Federation YouTube channel so that you can get our weekly reminders. We hope to see you next week. And I'm going to ask our dear friend Peter to, before we close this live, can you please, Peter, say a prayer?
Sure. Let us close our eyes if we can. Dear God, dear Master Jesus, we thank you. May we have the strength and the perseverance to receive your light. May we understand and put into practice what it means to transform from within. May we deepen our faith through inner transformation. May we do our best each and every day to be a positive example to others, especially those who are closest to us, and also a positive example to ourselves. And may we be able to inspire others by being a good example, by being grounded, and by being centered. And may all of us do our best to help transform our community so that our community can move into the light. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, everyone.